In a world gripped by war, politics, and fragile peace, one voice once again steps into the global spotlight. Former U.S. President Donald J. Trump, known for his bold rhetoric, controversial decisions, and unpredictable diplomacy. Donald is now making headlines once again as he comments on two of the world's most volatile conflicts, the Iran-Israel crisis and the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. At the recently concluded NATO summit in The Hague, the atmosphere was tense. World leaders had gathered to address growing global insecurity, the rise of military tensions, and the economic ripple effects felt across continents. But it was Donald Trump who stole the show with statements that sparked hope, fear, and intense speculation. Trump took to the stage during a press conference, and with cameras flashing and microphones ready, he said something that sent shockwaves across media outlets. The Iran-Israel war is done finished. This single sentence may seem simple, but its weight is immense. Over the past few months, the Middle East has once again become the epicenter of a military conflict that threatened to spiral out of control. What began as targeted strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities escalated into a series of retaliatory missile attacks, drone warfare, cyber offensives, and global oil market disruptions. The world watched as two regional giants, Iran and Israel, edged dangerously close to an all-out war. But now, Trump claims it's over. The war is done, he repeated, adding, they're both tired, exhausted. Could it start again? Maybe someday, maybe soon. While many might interpret his words as both a warning and a signal of optimism, there's no denying that a temporary ceasefire is currently holding, brokered quietly by U.S. diplomatic channels. The ceasefire has survived the past 48 hours, an eternity by Middle Eastern conflict standards. For now, the missiles have stopped, the warplanes are grounded, and behind closed doors, diplomats are talking. Trump also revealed a major development that has taken the international community by surprise. We're going to talk with Iran next week, he said. We may sign an agreement, I don't know. An agreement between the United States and Iran. This is the same Donald Trump who famously withdrew from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, also known as the Iran nuclear deal. Back in 2018, the same Trump who oversaw the maximum pressure campaign sank military threats and regional containment aimed at curbing Iran's nuclear ambitions and influence. Now, 5 years later, he's hinting at the possibility of a new deal. I don't see Iran getting back involved in nuclear, Trump claimed. We hit them hard. Really hard. They didn't even get the chance to move that material. It's gone. Their nuclear program wiped out. His words suggest that the U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, possibly involving bunker-busting missiles, sabotage operations, and advanced tests. However, such claims are difficult to verify independently. Iran, meanwhile, remains silent. Its leadership has not yet officially responded to Trump's comments or confirmed the extent of the damage. But analysts believe that Iran is indeed reconsidering its approach, not just due to the destruction, but because of mounting domestic pressure, economic instability, and strategic fatigue. At the same time, Trump's rhetoric reflects a certain political He's projecting strengths, suggesting that the U.S. forced Iran into submission, while simultaneously opening the door for negotiations. A classic carrot-on-stick strategy. For him, this is not just geopolitics, it's personal branding. But Trump didn't stop there. Pivoting to another major flashpoint in global affairs, Trump addressed the Russia-Ukraine war, a conflict that has now entered its third year with no end in sight. In his typical blunt fashion, Trump described both Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelenskyy as very difficult people. They're tough, they're fighters, they're not easy to deal with. But I'll speak to Putin soon, he announced. This raised eyebrows across Europe, especially among NATO allies who have grown increasingly skeptical of Trump's stance on the Ukraine war. While the Biden administration has provided billions in military and economic aid to Ukraine, Trump has repeatedly questioned whether the U.S. should be involved at all. Zelenskyy wants to end the war, I believe that. But with Putin, it's not that simple. Still, I'll talk to him. Donald's desire to speak with Putin, likely outside formal diplomatic channels, is reminiscent of his earlier approach during his presidency. He famously preferred direct, personal engagement with foreign leaders, sometimes bypassing official processing. His critics called it reckless. His supporters called it bold. But can Trump, a former president, really influence the trajectory of the Ukraine war? The truth is, while he has no official authority, his words carry weight, not just because of his political stature, but because the upcoming U.S. elections could once again return him to power. If that happens, both allies and adversaries are preparing for what could be a major shift in U.S. foreign policy. Trump also weighed in on NATO, reiterating his familiar complaint. The U.S. is paying too much. NATO countries need to spend more on defense. That's how we get peace. Through strength. It's a consistent message, one that resonates with many American voters. Trump believes that Europe must shoulder a larger burden of its own security, especially as the continent faces increasing instability, from the Ukraine war to migration pressures to potential flare-ups in the Balkans and Eastern Europe. At the same time, Trump's views are shaping the Republican Party's stance on foreign policy. less interventionist, more transactional, and deeply skeptical of global alliances that don't bring immediate returns. As the world watches the fragile Iran-Israel ceasefire, the grinding war in Ukraine, and the shifting winds of American politics, the question looms large. What happens next? Will Iran return to the negotiating table with sincerity? Will the ceasefire hold? Or will shadow wars and proxy conflicts reignite tensions? Will Russia and Ukraine find a path to peace? Or will new weapons and battlefield escalations prolong the bloodshed? And most importantly, will Donald's return to the global stage bring stability or chaos? These are the questions that dominate every headline, every diplomatic cable, and every think tank report right now. What's clear is this: the world is at a crossroads, and in this moment of uncertainty, personalities matter as much as policies. Trump, for all his controversies, remains a political force to reckon with, whether as a former president influencing current events, or as a potential future leader shaping what's to come. His words and actions cannot be ignored. As Trump himself said, "They fought, the war is done." But history reminds us, wars don't always end when the bombs stop falling. They end when peace begins. And peace, as we've learned time and again, is far more complicated than war. Only time will tell if the ceasefires hold, or if they are simply pauses before the next chapter of conflict begins.